Hi folks, in this video we continue on where I left off in part 1 of how to oil out a dried oil painting. I'll put a link to that video in the description down below. But I wanted to point out that in this video, as well as all of my other videos, they aren't just instructional for instructional purposes. It's I like to share the information I've gathered over probably 50 years of painting, and I would hope those who are interested in art, particularly my art, this is going to provide you some insight as to decisions I encounter along the way, and all about the process, how I get this effect, why I favor this over that. And it's all my opinion, but it's what works for me. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more, do subscribe. Share it with your friends and neighbors. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. So I've been working on this painting for a while, and I started out earlier in the video showing you how to oil a painting out, which we did up in this area here. Then I got the painting all the way across. If you're adding fresh oil and repainting an area extensively, I found I don't need to oil it out unless I'm just doing a specific area. Now these grays down in here coming along nicely. This whole area is going to be in shadow, and these aspen and poplar trees along the creek here are getting a little darker yellow because they're in shadow, and then that really pops these aspens back in here. All right, let's get to it, and I'll take you along, show you how I'm going to do this. The questions I encounter in my mind, decisions that have to be made. We'll talk about it and see how it turns out. Hi folks, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. I'm Mike, here in my world-famous studio where all the magic happens. I paint in both watercolor and oils. I like watercolors for their transparency and loose suggestive qualities, and I like oil paints for the opacity, the texture I can create in the brush strokes. I paint the people, places, and things of small-town rural America. From the towering peaks of the Rocky Mountains to the towering grain silos of Kansas, or the small adobe casas of New Mexico, to the fishing boats in a marina on the northern British Columbia coast, the cowboys of Montana, the bewhiskered bikers of Sturgis, or the flatbed Ford on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. They all have a story. With my painting kit, I travel the back roads and the byways of the West, often on my motorcycle, seeking out the character of my subjects and capturing it using the effect of light, shadow, shape, and value. I get the information I need from roadside sketches or photographs and use those studies for more complex work back in my studio. Come with me as I paint my way along, and I'll tell you the tale of the people I meet, the places I go, and the things I do. Just living life out west. I've got a little Viridian and some French ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and this makes up kind of a nice little greenish gray, if you will. And I'm kind of just dragging this along the surface here, and it just creates a beautiful little It's very subtle. So subtle I'm not even sure you can see it. Greenish cast, which would be representative of some growth along the creek here. And right back in here, just these subtleties of color nuances. A little bit of vegetation growing along from the water here. This is very light. I haven't oiled this out or anything. I'm just painting over a dry painting. And I let it dry so I can get some of the scumbling effect, and see how that's kind of working nicely. And get some more over in here. Now this bush right here needs some attention, and it's got a little bit of a green growth starting. So let me say starting. It's still got some green growth in it. So I've got to I'm going to try to put that in there, but I'm going to try to keep the gray cast to it. Overall dark, in the shadow, gray cast. And let's see how this works. So that's not quite dark enough, but it's still useful. And I need some of that dark toward the ground, toward the base back here, to anchor some of those colors so they're not just all floating. You see, that's maybe a little darker than what I want, but I'm going to leave it for now. So I'm going to try to break this up a little bit. Remember I said that spot right there has got a little dark? Well, I just modified it enough to where I think it'll work now. See, there's a couple layers of brush, willows, basically, right in here. And then there's, in this foreground, there's even more of them. So here I got the palette knife out here again. Let's see what this can do. Yeah, it creates some nice broken color in there. Yeah, I like that. See, I can come back in with some of that gray, modify those a little bit. Yeah. Okay, I was gonna mix up some yellow and get back up into the. So I've still got this brush that I've been using with the gray and the dark and the green. You can see some of that color. And I'll now this is a place where one might have oiled that out a little bit, but I'm going to be putting more paint over the top of that. So I don't think it's all that necessary. And I can get some nice broken color out of this. Now I'm going to come back over this with some oh, kind of, I guess maybe a burnt yellow, a burnt orange or something. Let's see what we can mix up here. Oh, I've got some of this. I don't know what that is. That's a little bit too burnt, maybe. Now let's try this. That's getting closer. Oh, yeah. Little bits of color in there. That's kind of nice. Get over here. And of course, on this end, we've got the similar trees and color quality here as we do over there. So let's bring some of that. And I should, before I get too carried away, I should put those some tree trunks and stuff in here. And of course I could take a small brush and accomplish the same thing. But since I've got this palette knife in my hand and I don't want to dirty another brush. And again, this is part of the experimenting. I'm just want to see what I can accomplish with the palette knife effect. And see if that does what needs to be done. Little suggestions of the tree trunks. I'd like to bring a little bit of that color into the foreground down here. Maybe that's some leaves that have fallen and the wind has kind of blown them around. They got tangled up in this brush in here. Yeah, so you can do the same thing over here now. Just a little bit. Little points of color and interest that kind of pop. So now it's, I'm kind of pretty well gotten this foliage taken care of. And now I'm not sure that I'm real happy with this yet, but I'm going to leave it and I'm going to concentrate on finishing up this foreground here. Let's see what we can do in the water in a critical point. I'm going to clean out some brushes here and I'll be right back. So as you can see, I put some more sky holes, broke up that upper part of the tree and some more of the foliage behind those trees, kind of broke it up, come back through the leaves. And now I'm just kind of putting in some branches. And I don't need too many of these, just a few, and let the viewer's eye fill in the rest of it. I think that's probably about all I want to do for now. I may come back to it later. There we go. Like I said, some leaves or little debris. Yep, right there might be a little much. So, come in with a dark, kind of a grayish. Knock that down a little bit. It's kind of a nice color, actually. I think I'll add some of that up in here. Now down in here, there's some twigs, branches, little, what do you want to call it? Kind of like this stuff here. That gets washed up from the creek as it's flowing along there. So we need to get some of that in there. See how that gives all of that a little bit of texture. And the challenge right now that I'm looking at is going to be this water for me. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Yeah. And that'll be some. So that's a little dark right in there, but let's see what my theory holds up. Need some roots, or not roots, but branches down the bottom here. Here we go. Now I can modify that with some grays so it's not sticking out. But we do want it a little darker at the base of those bushes, because the light doesn't get down there, so it's got to be darker. That'll anchor it, also anchor it to the ground a little better. Kind of like I did back up in there. There's not really any sand around here. It's all gravel. What happens is the rocks erode and get washed down from up in here, like the big chunks, and they get down lower and they tumble and they get smaller and smaller, and then get down here and turn into gravel. So up close like this, there's going to be more detail, and what we're trying to do is give the illusion of detail without all of the actually making it detail. If that makes sense. Make it look like there's detail. Now in the photo there's a big log, down tree that sticking out across here. Let's see here. And I'm trying to decide whether that adds anything of importance or whether it needs to be in there. And may not decide this session. I may have to think about it a little bit. Often it isn't, I forget who said it, Edgar Allan Poe maybe. Charles Hawthorne. Rather than asking what you can add to a painting, see what you can take away. So it might be that that's not necessary. So now we're getting down. I got to think about this water. So here's what we have. What I'm thinking about, the thought process that I'm going through my mind. I got to put this water in. And I'm trying to determine the value. Now this is a little bright, and realizing that all of this area in here, all this light, this area here is somewhat in shadow because of these clouds up here. So there's some shadow in here, but it is also reflecting from up in here. Now, I know what you're thinking. Look at the photo. So here's what we've got with the photo. A little bit of a blue, and when I squint, it's kind of a lighter value than the gravel, but it is fairly dark. Yeah, I'll just mix up some color and let's play with it and see what we get. I did take the liberty of cleaning up my palette, if you can appreciate that. You call it clean. But I'm just going to take some color. That's kind of that gray that I had on that brush. I'm going to add a little, well, actually I think I'll add a little cobalt blue. And I'm going to, here's my pot here, so I'm going to take a little mineral spirits and break that down a little bit, thin it up, and go for a little darker value. That's French ultramarine blue. I know I used cobalt over here. I should have stuck with that, I guess. I'm just in the habit of using the French ultramarine blue with my grays. So I'm going to, let's see what happens here. It's always easier to lighten the dark than it is to darken light. So this is probably going in a little darker than what I need, but I can come back and lighten that up. It's not going to be too bad. Maybe. Now see, it's a little bluer. Now one of the things to consider also is that when you're painting water, it's always a good idea to try to keep it lighter the farther it is away from you. So back in here it'll be lighter and it'll just get darker as it comes this way. The reason being is that it'll help it, what do I want to say? It'll help it lie down. In other words, if it, otherwise it'll be like this, but if we paint it a little lighter back there, it'll lay down. Yeah, so now this has got a little more blue in it, which may help. You know, the idea of sticking with the photo, because I know a lot of you are saying, well, look at the photo. The colors in the photo, in a photograph, generally speaking, are not as accurate as what the eye can see. So what I'm trying to recreate and do here is, from my plein air painting experience, trying to rely on some of that as to what colors are. Now see, that's kind of made that turn nicely. And I could maybe get back in here and give a slight indication of the water back in there. And then we could actually carry it. Look at here. That might work. Is that the way it is in the photo? I don't know. I'm not looking at the photo right now. I'm trying to make a painting. I'm not trying to copy the photo. Here we go. Now, let me show you, well, I won't do it right now, but in a minute here, as soon as I get the rest of this blocked in. See, I can let some of this lighter color kind of break through, and that'll be some of the little riffles and stuff that are catching the sky light. All right, now I'm going to take a different brush and mix up a little bit of that gravel color, that gray. There's a big rock. We don't want it to be the only one, so I'll put another one there, maybe another one there. Mix up some more of this gray, this rock gray. A little darker, huh? Those may or may not stay there. We'll see. We'll see how this progresses. How this develops. We're getting close to the end here, though, gang. I say that, and they're never really done until somebody buys them or send them off to the show. They leave the room, leave the studio. I've got a frame coming, like I said, on Friday. I'll be up in the array at the gallery on Friday. But when I get back, I'll stick it in a frame, and I may let it sit in the frame for a while, just to see what it needs. Has to be kind of a reason for them to be out there, and I seem to be lacking that reason. So then, going back to what Hawthorne said, rather than seeing what you can add to a painting, see what you can take out. And I'm really thinking that it might be better to leave them out. I say that as I just keep adding more of them. See, the edge where it meets the water is going to be a little darker because it's wetted. So I'm mixing up a dark again, going back to the old trusted true burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue. And then if we darken this edge a little bit right in there. Frank McCarthy was a former illustrator turned Cowboy Artist of America. That's how I knew him. He was just incredible with painting every little stone. He's well known for that. I don't have the patience. Part of the reason I don't paint hyper-realism for two reasons. One, I don't have the patience to stick with a painting that long, but also I like to think that the audience can make up some of that in their own mind, that I don't have to spell it all out. Give them the opportunity to, what I like to think of as participating in the painting and through their viewership, through their viewing of it. Boy, we're getting down to the final stretches here, gang. Leave your comments down below. I'd like to know what you think about this. How do you handle some of these issues that are brought up? What works for you? I'm going to still think about these. I'm still not sold on the idea, but I'll leave them for now. I'd like to come into these videos and just be so 100% confident and assured of myself. But I've talked to some really great painters, and they all admit that it's always a struggle. The lack of confidence is rampant. So you kind of, you take Richard Schmid, he might be the exception. Have a clear picture in your mind of what you want, and then when you get there, you know you're done. Well, for now, I'm going to call it done, and we'll see what happens. So when I left you guys, I thought this painting was finished, and I put a frame on it and hung it up on the wall, and I was looking at it, and something bothered me. And what it was I had the creek come, and it made this turn, and where it came out on the canvas was exactly halfway, and that really bothered me. So I extended the gravel bed out this way and made the creek flow a little better. And I think I'm happy with that. Leave some comments. Tell me what you think.